Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our week 2 live session for DES 113 Typography. So far, it's just me in here tonight, but hopefully we'll get a couple of people that'll show up, and if not, that's kind of understandable. It's been quite a crazy weather weekend that we had. So before I do get started, if you are able to get in contact with me and let me know of your situation if you were affected by the hurricane. That would be great. I'm definitely going to be working with people who were affected, to the best of my ability at least. Throughout the duration of our course. I just need to know who it is. I kind of have a general idea based on the locations of each student that I can see in the system, but I know sometimes people move and they don't update their addresses. I used to be notorious for that when I went to school. So just let me know if you were affected, because that way I can, offer you some assistance with getting in that work and if work is late. So just let me know. And hopefully everybody was safe this weekend and hopefully didn't sustain too much damage to their homes. Really crazy storm. I was definitely watching it the entire weekend on the news, just kind of horrified at how big the storm was. All right, so our agenda for this evening. We're going to do a quiz review of week 1. So even if you're watching at home, you can still kind of do the quiz. You can jot down your answer and see if you get it correct. We're going to go over the discussion for week 2. We'll talk about the 19 rules of type, and we are going to have an assignment to overview and demo, and then we'll take a look at our assessment for week 2 and some resources for that assessment. So again, my telephone hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. If you call and you get my voicemail, please leave me a message so I can give you a call back. If texting is easier, you can send me a text as well. Just kind of be aware of the time zone change and that I am located on Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on California and it's 8 o'clock your time at night and you send me a text, it's 11 o'clock my time. So just kind of be aware of that. I don't have a work cell phone. It is my personal cell phone. So it will buzz and wake me up. Also, you can email me at any time. Email is probably the best point of contact for me. Let's talk again about our due dates. So all the assignments and assessments are due by Saturday at midnight for full credit. Please communicate with me regarding late work. This will definitely save you some missed points. Week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. And your original discussion post is due by Wednesday at midnight, and you need to respond to 2 of your fellow students by Saturday and post on 2 different days. And make sure that you're responding to 2 of your fellow students' original posts. So if a student replies to your post and then you reply to them and it's all within the chain of your original discussion post, that doesn't meet that requirement. So I just want to make that clear. And also, late discussion posts will not be accepted past the Saturday deadline for the week. And the reason for this is that everybody else has moved on to the next topic and it's not really relevant. The whole point of the discussion post is for you to be in there and, talking with your fellow students regarding our topic for that week. Also, unless if you have submitted something after this morning being Monday morning, all of the grades are in. If you are unhappy with your grade or you can see where something has gone wrong and you know how to fix it, I do allow 1 resubmission per assignment or assessment. And so if you fix assignment 1, but you still did something wrong, you can't resubmit it a second time. And I will remind you of this, but all resubmissions are due by Tuesday of week 4 at midnight. So, try to, if you know that you want to fix something from week 1, don't wait until Wednesday of week 4 to submit that. It will definitely be too late. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. You can resubmit something once and I will regrade it.
All right, again, a reminder of our course schedule. Our live sessions are Mondays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And our multi-session is on Tuesday. Oh, no worries. I'm glad you were able to make it. Our multi-sessions are on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And those multi-sessions are open for students to come in with assignment problems, questions, or if you need some one-on-one tutoring. The reason why I hold those multi-session and live sessions so early in the week is this will give you ample time to get your assignments done. If you do need any outside help outside of those times, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available, and there is no appointment necessary. And this seems like a good segue to go over into the course and take a look at our announcements and see what our learning coach has for hours this week. So this week, Christy has hours on Wednesday from 12 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time and Thursday from 4 to 9 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can log in with her on Wednesday or Thursday if you have any questions. And then there's two other announcements in here. Well, one of them pertains to the live session tonight. But if you have any missing work from week 1, don't fret. There's still time to fix this. Try and get the missing assignments or assessments in as soon as you can, because there's definitely still time to bring those grades up going into week 2. So just don't let it snowball. If you do have some work missing from week 1, or if you did something incorrectly and you need to resubmit it, just try to get that in as soon as possible. All right, so this is our little quiz that I have put together. So, Ginger, if you want, you can type the answer to each of the questions. It's only 1 through 4 for each of them in the chat box, and then we'll go over the answers on the next slide so you can play along. And then those who are at home, you can kind of jot down your answer on a piece of paper, or you can just kind of keep it in your head, and we will, you can see if you got it right on the following slide. So just a fun little quiz that I put together to kind of go over those types of fonts that we were discussing last week. So question number 1, what is the name of the classification of typefaces that looks like handwriting or calligraphy? Is it 1, serif, 2, slab serif, 3, display, or 4, script? And if you had the answer of script, number 4, you are correct. And I should probably give a little bit more of a pause for those of you playing at home. All right, number 2. These are typefaces that have the most diverse and prominent personalities. So we have 1, serif, 2, slab serifs, 3, display, or 4, script. And if your answer was number 3, display, you are correct. You are 2 for 2 over there. All right, number 3, they can convey a sense of authority in the case of heavy versions like Rockwell, but they can also be quite friendly, as in the recent favorite, Archer. So number 1, serif, number 2, slab serif, number 3, display, and number 4, script. This one's you're going to need to know what those 2 fonts look like in order to answer this one. So I'll do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is slab serifs. So this is kind of a good segue to show you what Rockwell looks like. Here is, if it ever loads, Rockwell. So you've got the very prominent feet on the bottom. So it's very similar to a serif, but it's called a slab serif because it's just a heavier squared off serif at the bottom. So that's a slab serif. And then Archer
looks like this. Still heavier at the bottom. Oh, this isn't Archer. Where's Archer? I believe Archer is very, very, very similar to this. It just might not be on my fonts. Archer font. There we go. And this is what Archer looks like. So again, has the feet at the bottom, but it's a little bit more stylized and friendlier. I think that was a good way to discuss it. A little bit friendlier than Rockwell. You know, it's kind of got a little bit of a bubble to some of them, you know, especially on the ampersand. So it's not as stern. All right, I think we were on number 4. Oh, did I only have 3? No, I should have 4. Maybe not. All right. So those were my 3 questions. I feel like I was missing one. So let's talk about typeface choices, classifications, and personalities. So we have our serifs, our slab serifs, our sans serifs, our script, and our display. So serif typefaces have those little feet at the bottom. Some good examples are Times, Palatino, Bookman, Bembo, Garamond, Utopia, Baskerville. Those are all serif fonts. They appear traditional, stable, practical, serious, mature, formal, scholarly, corporate, and businesslike. Then we have our slab serifs, and those are a class of serified typefaces that have those squared off feet. So the feet are more square on your Rockwell than they are in Times. So I can kind of show a demo of this, because I know that especially when you first get started with this, it's a little bit difficult to understand the difference between a serif and a slab serif, because, you know, when you're thinking of classifying it, you're just looking at the little feet. You know, so it's really the shape of the feet that, you know, kind of gets into the nitty gritty of a serif versus a slab serif. My computer seems to be running in the snail's pace today, so I do apologize for that. Hi, Lawrence. I'm glad you can make it. All right, so first we have our serif. So I'm going to do Times New Roman. So you can see how there's the little feet right here, and they're kind of graceful, you know, the feet of a serif. And then you have your slab serif, which Rockwell is a really good example. And the feet on your slab serif are more, you know, boxy. It's probably the best way to describe the feet on a slab serif as opposed to a serif. You know, you kind of have a graceful, like, swoop kind of to the feet in a serif. See how, like, you know, you have that nice curve. It's a little bit boxy at the bottom, obviously, but this is truly boxed off on a slab serif. So that's kind of the difference between the two. That's the easiest way to kind of tell the difference between those two. Then we have our sans serif, which means without any feet, which can be more harsh, although I don't think that that's a good way to classify them. I don't think that they're harsh, but I definitely agree that they have an understated personality. They tend to reflect a more contemporary, bold, and clean look. I am a big fan of sans serifs, so a lot of times I choose those when I am designing. It just seems to be the type of font that I like the most. And you'll find, you know, as you get going and as you become more, involved in design, you'll find that you have your preferences when it comes to typefaces and what you like to design with and what kind of looks you like. Then you have your script fonts. So those kind of look like handwriting or calligraphy. They can range from being casual, which a casual one would probably be this Rage Italic or Monotype Cursiva. And then an elegant font would be your Zapfino, your Bickham. Those are two of the more elegantly drawn fonts. They have soft, organic, and humanistic qualities that make them warm in personality, often rhythmic with high energy. Then you have your display fonts. So those typefaces have the most diverse and prominent personalities. I think that saying that they have a personality is probably the best way to describe a display font. Their character forms often suggest a personality relative to a genre, era, or time period. So we have Broadway, Harlow, Playbill, and Curls as examples there. So let's talk about, and this is another quiz. So let's talk about the parts of a letter, the anatomy. So this one might be a little bit difficult, but all right. Number one, does anybody know what, I just want to make sure my numbers went in order. Does anybody know what number one is? What part? And if you look, it's right here. It's right here with the foot. So if you know the answer, you can either jot it down at home or you can type it into the chat. I'll give a couple of seconds. And you probably never knew that there were so many parts of a letter, basically. You've got your eye, your shoulder, your finial, your overshoot, the axis, ascenders, your counter, your crossbars. Yeah, just so many parts. Oh, no worries. So this is actually the bracket, and it's where the serif, this is a serif, attaches to the stem of the letter. So these are going to be a little bit obscure, some of these parts. So then we have number two. Whoops, number two, if you know that part. Hopefully you did see it, which is right here. And seeing as I kind of showed it already, I'll go to that one. Yes, you are correct. And that is the terminal. Now, number three, right here, the inside part of the O. It's okay if you don't know these. Couple more seconds. And that is called the bowl of the letter. And then number four, right here, this part of the Y that's coming down underneath the baseline. Couple more seconds for the people at home and the people watching on YouTube. And that is the descender. All right, so now let's talk about alignment. So you can, again, type numbers 1 through 4. What type of alignment is in this image below demonstrating? So is it left justified, justified, centered, or right justified? And the answer is number 2, justified. And if you look, if it was left justified, there would be a rag to it, but it goes right up against this line right here, this invisible line. So that's how you can tell it's justified. It kind of stretches it right to the end of the line. All right, number 2, is this one left justified, justified, centered, or right justified?
And this one is left justified. Correct. And what type of alignment is this image below demonstrating? So we're going from here to here. Now it's all the same type. There's just something that's increasing. Is it 1, line spacing, 2, kerning, 3, tracking, or 4, justification? And the correct answer is number 1, line spacing. So the amount of space in between each line is getting gradually larger throughout the 4 images. All right, and then we have blank is adjusting the space only between characters. So is it 1, letting, 2, tracking, or 3, kerning? And the answer is 3, kerning. All right, so now we have blank is adjusting the space between letters in an entire group or paragraph of text. Is that 1, letting, 2, tracking, or 3, kerning? And the correct answer is 2, tracking. All right, so let's take a look at our discussion for this week. So that was just my fun little quiz for, going over the stuff from last week. So for this week's discussion, it's a little bit different than how we usually have discussions. We're going to have a peer review. So this discussion has 3 parts. What you need to do is post a JPEG or PNG of 3 of your letter form logos from assignment 1. They can be the ones you like the most, the least, or a combo. Below them, explain why you made the design decisions you did and ask for any specific input you would like to receive. Number 2, once your post is complete, give suggestions and comments for at least 2 other people's work. And let me say this, if you see somebody's work that hasn't had any comments on it, please go and comment on that person's work. It would really stink if one person has, 10 people commenting and then there's 3 people who didn't get any comments on their work. So please make sure that you are, everybody's has some comments this week. And then number 3, consider the feedback you get. Choose the logo you will use for this week's invitation. Make some revisions to improve your design and post the chosen, refined version below your original post. Please note an image of the chosen revised logo needs to be posted for full credit. We will learn a lot from seeing the before and afters. Yeah, exactly, Ginger, right? Embed your image following the instructions below. To add photos to the discussion so we can see them, please review the following tutorial. It is a 2-step process, but it will make the discussion a whole lot easier. First, you need to add the JPEG to your personal file. So remember, you go to your account name and you click on Files, and I'll just open it up in a new tab so I can walk you through it. And that's going to open up your Files section. Then, from there, you would upload your picture by clicking the Upload button in the User Files area. So that's this big blue Upload button, and you'll just, grab your image and upload it. And again, I like to make little folders, like a folder from Bondi I showed you last week, with each of the weeks. So that way, it just keeps all of my files nice and organized. So, consider doing that. If you get
an error message that it's too big or you don't have enough space, you may have to clear up some space by deleting any older files in the unfiled folder. So be sure you have a copy saved on your computer first of anything that you're going to delete. And remember to be kind, but direct and honest. I like that is nice, but it's not actually helpful. You know, saying something along the lines of, that works well because of, or I think it might look better if you consider doing this, this, and this because of, are the sorts of comments that I am looking for. If you receive a comment that you don't agree with, that is definitely okay. Remember, it's one person's opinion and it's about the work, not you. So let's create a real collaboration conversation here. Do feel free to make changes to your designs and create a new post with the revised logo. We'd all like to see the effects of the discussion that the discussion creates. I believe that peer review or critique is the best way to learn, and I can't wait to have this discussion with you. So, in order to receive full credit, you need to post your original 3 letter forms, and then you need to post the one revised one that you will be using on your invitation this week. So there's 2 parts. So you're going to need to post that, give suggestions and comments to 2 other people's work, and then when you've revised it by Saturday, you need to post that revised logo. So make sure you're reading over all of the prompts for this week. And if you're not sure how to, give constructive feedback, which is something you kind of have to learn if you've never done a critique before. My first post of the week kind of gives you an overview on how to give constructive feedback. Yes, exactly. So the way that I like to give feedback, and a way that I think is great to give feedback, is to use this thing called the sandwich method. So you start off by focusing on the strengths, what you like about the item in question. Then you provide your criticism, things that you might not like or areas that you can see that can be improved. And then last, you round it off with more positive feedback. So you're sandwiching anything that isn't 100% positive in the middle of 2 positive things. So it's a little positive sandwich, basically, when it's all said and done. But what is there in a sandwich that's in the middle? The meat of the sandwich, or, if you're a vegetarian, the veggies of the sandwich. So that's the part that you really want to focus on is, that's your actual critique. It's not the bread on either side. The actual critique is that meat or those veggies or the fish, what have you, on the inside of that sandwich. So, that's always the best part of the sandwich, so that should always be the best part of the critique. Yes, exactly. A sugar-coated beatdown. I like that. But it's true. And, everybody says, but does everything need a critique? Can't something just be perfect? In theory, yes, everything should be critiqued. You're really doing a disservice to your fellow students if you mark everything as perfect, because design is rarely perfect. And if you want to know why, it's because we each have our own take on design and how we personally would tackle it. That's what leads us to, to an open critique. And it also what makes us better at critiquing others. So remember that criticism is a form of communication, and that criticism will make your work stronger. And also remember, if you plan on going into this field and working in this field, everything that you do as part of your job is open to critique. It's being critiqued by the person who is proofreading your work. It's being critiqued by the client who is paying you to do this work. It is being critiqued by the printer when it gets there, whether it's set up correctly. It's being critiqued by people who, look at what you've designed and decide whether or not they like it. So, you are always going to be faced with critique in this field, and it's easier to get used to that in a school setting. I mean, the first time that I did a critique was in high school. And I had no idea that I was going to go on in high school to be a graphic designer. I mean, it was something I really wanted to do, but I didn't know that that would definitely become my job. But I remember that first time in art class, I stood up in front of the class with my work, and I held it up for everyone to verbally judge it in front of me. And it was like, whoa. You know, because when we create art, we're really, you know, putting a piece of ourselves out there. And so, you know, you really have to kind of step back from your designs, and you also can never marry yourself to a design. You know, that's one thing I always tell people. Do not be married to your design, because there's always going to be somebody somewhere who wants to change something, and you have to be open to that. So, you know, it'll make you a better designer that way, because, you know, it's never truly done either. You'll go back to work that you thought was so awesome a couple of years from now, and you're like, oh gosh, I would change this, and this. I do it all the time. I look at work that I have up in my portfolio, which are supposedly my best pieces, and I say to myself, why did I pick that? And I'll take it down. Yes, sometimes you're going to have to divorce that design. That you gotta be ready to, you know, it might need to be annulled. So never marry yourself to your design. It needs to be an open relationship. All right, so that's how we're going to be doing our discussion for this week. I love this. I love critiques. That's what I'm gonna have to get that shirt and wear it. All right, so let's talk about the 19 rules of typography and obeying those rules. So, rule number 1, for optimum legibility, choose classical, time-tested typefaces. So what are some classical time-tested typefaces that you can think of off of the top of your head? Oh, nice. Times New Roman is one. Yep. Oh, nice. Helvetica is another one. If there is a great documentary out there, and if you're a font nerd like I am, I'm a total font nerd. It's called Helvetica. If you ever get a chance to watch it, I definitely suggest it. It's all about Helvetica. And if you're not into fonts, I mean, you know, you might not find it that interesting, but if you're a graphic designer, you should definitely be into fonts. But, you know, definitely watch the documentary on Helvetica. It's so great. It used to be on YouTube for free. You might have to kind of, you know, look around for it, but it used to be up there. And at one point it was on Netflix too, but I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. You know what? Minion. Hold on. I always wonder when Minion was created. I feel like that's kind of a new font. 1990. Yes. Okay. Minion, because I was going to say, I never saw Minion before until Adobe started kind of putting out like a lot of their stuff, and a lot of all of their programs default to Minion for a reason. And it's because it was designed for the Adobe system. So, very interesting. It's basically Adobe's default font. And that's why when you go into Adobe and the first time that you put in a text box, it defaults to Minion Pro, and that's because it's Adobe's typeface. Futura, however, is a very classical typeface that is extremely, yes, it is a conspiracy, exactly. That is extremely well drawn. So Futura is a great example. All right, rule number 2, be mindful not to use too many different typefaces at one time. What's a good rule regarding that? I apologize, I have horrible allergies today. Right, 2. So if you're using 2 typefaces, what should they be? Should you have 2 different serif fonts, 2 different sans serif fonts, a mix of one sans serif and one sans serif font? What is the best mix. I always wish that it showed me like dots, like when you're texting somebody, if you guys were typing in the chat, because I can never tell and I don't want to like say the answer and then you're like, I was in the middle of typing that. Zoom, it's a good program, but not really. So what you want is, you would like to have a mix of like one sans serif and one serif font. So you don't want to go mixing Helvetica and Futura together, or Baskerville and Times New Roman together. You could also use a display font and a sans serif font, or a display font and a serif font. Although you'd probably be better off with a display font and a sans serif font, because I find that some display fonts might start to clash with the feet in your serif font. But that's really getting into it. But that's a good rule. Try to have two. If you need a third one, it should be used sparingly, and it should probably be something like, a major headline or a call to action on the page. Something that's supposed to stand out and kind of stand out apart from the rest of the design. I would not use a display and a script font together. The reason why is a script font is kind of a form of a display font in my mind. It's not, neither one has the function to be body type. And one of your fonts that you choose should always have that capability, the ability to be the body type on your page, something that can go down to 10-point type if need be. And neither a display font nor a script font can fit that criteria. Those are just, now we're getting into Shannon's rules. I have my own set of, rules in my head as well. All right, rule number 3, avoid combining typefaces that are too similar in appearance. So that goes along the lines of, combining 2 serif fonts or 2 sans serif fonts. You definitely wouldn't want to use, let me see. This is my headline. So headline here, which I would probably do my headline in Helvetica 95, let's say. That's a good headline font. And then if I had body copy, I probably wouldn't want to do my body copy in this Rockwell font, because they're kind of similar. They're both heavy fonts. Let me just fill with placeholder text. There we go. This is, it feels like a big block of black. They have the same feel to them, basically. So another thing I might not want to use is, I probably wouldn't want to use, Futura with Helvetica. They're both, sans serif fonts. If I want to use another sans serif font, what I should do is use another Helvetica within the same family. So maybe I can use a Helvetica Light. Now these both have the same look and feel, and they're from the same font family. So basically, they work better together, or I can just go with even a serif font. Helvetica and, I don't think I have Utopia on my, Baskerville Old Face or something. Again, now these go together. Headline stands out, body copy is the size that it should be, and they work well together. Oh. Boo, I hate when I do that. There we go, okay. So, avoid combining typefaces that are too similar in appearance. Rule 4, text set in all capital letters severely retards reading. So what that means is, it's very difficult to read something that is all caps. So if I had all of my body copy in caps, can you see, I know that this is, let me get some lorem ipsum So you can kind of see at least words. So as you can see, this is way more difficult to read in all caps as opposed to not being in all caps. This is way easier to read. It's way easier on your eyes. All right, rule number 5. For text type, use sizes that, according to legibility studies, prove most readable. And this differs between the web and print. If you were designing something for the web to be read on a screen, body copy should not go below 16-point type, which sounds really big, but where we sit from the screen, you know, how far away the screen is from, you know, basically our eyes and us sitting in our chair is how we determine that readability. When we're holding a printed piece, usually body copy is around 12-point type. That's a good legible reading size. I mean, there's times where you're going to have to go smaller, obviously, but we can move, we tend to move the paper closer to our faces when we're reading, and so we shouldn't have to sit on top of our screen and have that same distance that we would hold a piece of paper be the distance that we have to be from our screen in order to read it. So you want to be aware of legibility when you are designing a piece, and font size has a lot to do with that. And some fonts at 12-point type, like this is Baskerville at 12-point type, but some fonts will seem or appear smaller at 12-point type, and some will appear much larger. Let's see if I can get an example. Let's see what happens when we change it to Garamond. Garamond's a little bit, you can see it moved back a little. It's a little bit smaller of a font. And if you went to something like Helvetica Thin or Helvetica Condensed, that's an even smaller font. So you kind of want to be aware of, you know, what font you're choosing and the legibility of that font. Number 6, avoid using too many different type sizes and weights at the same time. So what does that mean? You know, be consistent in your design. So if my body copy is going to be 12-point type, it should be consistently 12-point type. If my headlines are going to be 72-point type, I should consistently have headlines that are that size type. If my subheadlines are going to be 18-point type, that should be consistent throughout my design. So I wouldn't want, you know, one subheadline at 18-point type, one set of body copy at 12, and then this subheadline to be 20, and then this body copy to be 9.5, and then this to be 24 for a subheadline, and then maybe I have one more set of body copy that's like 11. It's just very inconsistent. Your design becomes extremely inconsistent, and it just doesn't look good. You know, it's like your eyes like, wait, big, small, medium, like I don't know where to look. So you want to have some consistency in your design, and that's going to come from making sure that you are consistent in those sizes and weights. And another thing would be, you know, what if one of my subheadlines was, you know, Adobe 77 bold, you know, it just looks different. And then this one's 75 bold. You know, you just want to be aware of having that consistency. It will make your design stronger. All right, rule 7, use text types of book weight. Avoid typefaces appearing too heavy or too light. So that's mainly for your body copy. So that means, again, if, you know, this is book weight basically, but what if I used, you know, something like this font for my body copy? It's very heavy. That's just not a good, you would never read a book in this font basically. So think of that when you are putting together, you know, your body copy. Think of it. Would I read a book that had braggadocio as the font? I hope not. That would kill my eyes. I wouldn't be able to get past 2 pages. I'd be like, sorry, I can't read your book. You know, so you definitely, the same goes for script font. You know, this would be extremely difficult if the entire body, all your body copy was in Scriptina. Like, you know, how much of this can you read? You know, so you want to be aware of choosing the right font. Rule 8, use typefaces of medium width. Avoid typefaces that appear extremely wide or narrow in width. So that, again, is for your body copy. It's much easier to have body copy that is maybe Helvetica medium as opposed to Helvetica, oh, which is the one I want? Or maybe Futura, hold on. Futura light condensed. You know, Helvetica medium's a little bit easier to read for body copy. Not that this is completely illegible, and there's going to be times where you're going to be given so much body copy you have to use font like Helvetica light condensed. But, you know, you should try to use a medium width. And 9, for text type, use consistent letter and word spacing to produce an even, uninterrupted texture. So that's when you can tell if that is happening by zooming out. You know, you might be zoomed in while you're working on something. And let me just try to make this consistent. Get rid of my bad examples so we can see. So when I zoom out, you know, there should be a feeling of consistency in the letters. There should feel like there's way too much space, you know, something like this. You know, that just doesn't look evenly spaced. So you want to be sure to fix anything that is, you know, uneven in the spacing. You want that texture, to have a nice texture. Rule 10, use appropriate line lengths. Lines that are too short or too long disrupt the reading process. So that's usually, if we have something that is 8.5 by 11, there's a good chance that we might have it set up as 2 columns. So you might want to add a second column and read it, you know, you would read better this way than all the way across. A good rule of thumb is 2 alphabets across. So that's a good rule of thumb of how many letters across your page, your word should be. 2 alphabets. Oops. Rule 11, for text type, use line spacing that easily carries the eye from one line to the next. So again, that goes with, you know, making sure that the spacing, your line spacing is correct. Not having your letters be too close to each other is the best way to explain this. So I have this set on auto. Auto is a pretty good place to start. What you want to look for is where those ascenders meet up with the descenders. So right here's a good example. So if I started to shrink up this spacing, you can see where the apostrophe is starting to run into the descender of my Y if it gets too close. See how lines are starting to, you know, overlap? and run into each other. So that's where you want to make sure that you're aware of that line spacing. And this might even be too close. This is something where you may want to add, you know, an extra return, or you can go into paragraph and put in an extra space between the paragraphs, just like this, kind of 0.0625, the first default, just gives it enough space where that looks a little bit better. Things, you know, things aren't starting to run into each other. Be aware of your spacing. You don't want your last line running up onto the column there. There we go. See, I can't even show an example without fixing things. I can't look. I got to fix it. Rule 12, for optimum readability, use a flush left, ragged right type alignment. So that's your left justified, basically. That is the easiest for readability of body copy. Centered is the most difficult. Justified's a little bit difficult on the eyes too, because your eye has a natural way that it follows from line to line. And with body copy, you know, large paragraphs of text, it's definitely easier to read if you have that left justification. 13, strive for consistent rhythmic rags. So that's the right-hand side of your page. It should feel like a nice little short wave on the side. So let's look at this one. See, short wave. It doesn't matter. The last line's always gonna kind of be on its own. But what you don't want to see is, you know, one word all by itself on that last line. Fix the rag to have at least 3 or 4 words on your last line. But it should be a nice gentle wave. You know, like you wouldn't want it to be like this. You know, this isn't a good rag. Right, no orphans. All right, number 14, clearly indicate paragraphs, but be careful not to upset the integrity and visual consistency of the text. So that's where I added that spacing in between the paragraphs. It just gives a little bit of space where you can see where one paragraph ends and another one begins. So they're not running right on top of each other. And that really does help, you know, to organize your piece and to kind of organize the thoughts that are going on. If your client gives you body copy and it's in separate paragraphs, it's because, you know, they're separate thoughts and it should be laid out appropriately. 15, avoid widows and orphans whenever possible. I always forget which is which. It's like basically don't leave a word alone. You know, either as a widow or as an orphan. I always forget there is a rule as to which one is which, and I always get them confused. 16, emphasize elements within the text with discretion and without disturbing the flow of reading. So what that means is, let's say that something in your text needs to stand out a little bit more. Here, I'll show you an example in this. Let's say that I need Aldous PageMaker to stand out. What I would do is probably, because I'm using right now light condensed, I would probably change this to bold condensed oblique. So it's a little bit bolder and italicized to stand out, but it still flows with the rest of that paragraph. It's not too obtrusive within the paragraph. So that's what that means. You know, stand out without disturbing the flow of reading. You could also just kind of make it italicized. So it could just be light condensed oblique. Oblique means italicized. So that would stand out as well. Rule 17, always maintain the integrity of type. What that means is do not distort the type. fonts were designed. Like, there is so much thought and math and precision that goes into designing a font such as Futura by the font designer, that the last thing that you should do is select all of the type and scale it to 75%. It ruins the integrity of that font. It really starts to destroy the integrity. So you want to make sure that you are using it at 100% width and 100% height. Do not destroy the type. Maintain the integrity of that type. And rule 18, always align letters and words on the baseline. So you need to have a baseline, first, and then make sure that you are, you're lining things up, you're working within a grid, things of that nature. And 19, oh, whoops, I thought I had 19. Rule number 19, missing. Rule number 19, if you know the rules, then you can break them, because clearly I am missing a slide here for rule number 19. And I'm assuming it was probably that. All right, so next we're going to do a demo of assignment 2. But before we do that demo, I want to show you an example. And I also want to go over the assessment, so that way if I run a little bit long on my demo, we've still gone over the rest of our slides. So let's take a look at the assignment before we go on any further. All right, so for assignment 2, and this is fun, this is a fun assignment, you are going to be creating a grand opening invitation. So it's due by Saturday at midnight, and it's worth 120 points. When designing an invitation, it is very important for such invitations to have a voice and a theme, understanding where a client comes from, what they stand for, who their clients are, and how they would like to portray themselves to the world is our job as graphic designers. So these are your specs. Your size is 5.5 by 8.5. It can be either portrait or landscape. The letter mark from week 1 must be included, so you're going to choose one. Choose your strongest one. It needs to be in full color, CMYK, without any pictures or graphics. And that means graphics that you create yourself. Please design your grand opening invitation for one of these clients, either the Jumping Spider Toy Store, the Bank of Lantander, the Toscana Italian Bistro, or the Paramount Computer Technology. This is your copy. Copy and paste your copy. Don't retypeset it. Copy and paste it. You are cordially invited to the grand opening of our new, pick one of them, store, branch, or location. Come celebrate with us and enjoy a live concert from Christina Aguilera at one of our 2 seated dinner parties, Friday, September 16th at 5:30 p.m., Friday, September 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Call 801-281-7620, extension 3501 to reserve your seats. Must be 21 or older. Seating is limited. Management reserves the right to cancel or modify this event at any time. Give special attention to copy size, breathing room, and hierarchy. Think about principles of design, and you cannot alter the copy in any way. So you have to use the copy. Yeah, I know exactly. You have to use the copy exactly how it is. Remember that this is a typography class, therefore the most important aspect of the invitation is the typography. I highly recommend sketching ideas. Do a little research. By research, look online at examples of invitations, and then, you know what, have fun with it. Have fun. This assignment will give you the opportunity to show off your creativity with layout and typography. So No, it's not considered a graphic to put color in the background because it's CMYK. So you can have color blocks. You just can't have actual pictures. So I hope that that makes sense. All right. All right, I'm going to do an example of this, but I am not going to use the copy, and I'm not going to use the letter form, because I don't want you or anybody, you know, doing the same exact design as me. And if I do see somebody who submits the same exact design, you won't get full credit. It's definitely up to you to come up with your own design. And if you are a person who is like, but now I've seen how you design this and I can't unsee it, then don't watch this portion of the video until after, you know, the portion where I do the demo. You might want to pause it and not watch that part until you design your own. And then if you have some questions about it, you can kind of pop back into the video. That might help you, because sometimes I'm the type of person where I'm like, if I see something, I'm like, well, great, now I can't unsee it. You know? So here's a student example. So they use that Paramount Computer Technology. This is their letter form, and they added the name of the business to the letter form. And you can see that there's a definite hierarchy to their design. You know, what's the most important? Cordially invite to grand opening of our new store. Come celebrate with us and enjoy a live concert from Christina Aguilera. Friday, September 16th or Friday, September 23rd. Call this number to reserve your seats. And then, you know, your small type must be 21 or older. Seating is limited, blah, 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 blah. So this is a really good example of an invitation. And I shouldn't see an example that looks like this one either. You know, if you are going to school for graphic design, it's because you are a creative person. Be creative with this. You know, put your own spin on it this week. And if you can't unsee this, don't use the Paramount Computer Technology Company. You know, consider using one of the other places. And you'll notice, you know, this is for color. Even though there's only two colors, it's still considered for color. And they changed the color of the C in their letter form to be the green to tie in. So that's something you can do, is you can change the color of your letter form, add color to it for this week. The reason why we designed it in black only is because if it works in one color black, it will work in four color, if that makes sense. All right, so before we do that demo, though, I wanted to talk about our assessment for week 2. So let me pop back over and go take a look at our assessment. Oops, which for some reason, all right, if you are in the assignment and you hit next, it's going to bring you to week 3. You have to hit previous for some reason. There we go. They set it up where on the home page it shows the assignment and then the assessment, but when you get in there, they're backwards. All right, so our assessment for week 2 is our final project research. Here's your prompt. For this week's assessment, you will be writing a research paper on one of the following typeface families. So you can pick a typeface family. Like I said, if you want to watch that documentary on Helvetica, watch that documentary and then write about Helvetica. Helvetica is a super interesting font, and like the whole design of it and everything else. So pick a typeface, and then using Microsoft Word, you need to write a 550 to 750 word research paper. Your research can include information about the designer, circumstances regarding the design, such as uses, information regarding visual aspects of the typeface, etc. Start with the ProQuest library resources, so you can get to that from the homepage. Hold on, let me go back to our home page. So if you go library, there you go. These are your ProQuest links. And for tips on how to use this, you can click here. So that's how you can get to it. Just right from the homepage, click on library. Be sure to cite your references using APA formatting. Yeah, it's not the most user-friendly. You're right. So honestly, Google is your friend. Just make sure that you're citing your sources. And if you're not sure how to cite things APA format, if you go into the announcements, I have a link in there for you. It's from week 1, so you'll have to scroll down. Citing sources in APA format. Citation machine will create that citation for you. Also, I have put in here a Microsoft Word template for you to use. So if you do not have a good template in your version of Microsoft Word, you can download this template doc file and use that for creating your assessment. So the text from this report will be the content for your final assignment, your magazine spread. So make sure you're using correct grammar. Make sure that you are spell checking. If you want to get in with the learning coaches and have them look this over before you submit it, please do that. Do not copy and paste from your sources. That is considered plagiarism. I will run your papers through a plagiarism checker, and if there is more than 80% content that is unoriginal, that will be considered plagiarism. So make sure you are and even if you cite your sources, that doesn't mean, unless if you use a direct quote, that you can copy and paste from them. You definitely need to write this paper in your own words. And again, a good idea if you want to see, let me see if the Helvetica movie, oops. Is available. It's been a minute since I've looked for it. This is the trailer. It's on Amazon. Wow, it used to be free. So that's kind of a bummer. You might be able to, find a version of it somewhere. I bet you your library would have it. Oh, PBS might have it. Hold on. And if you have Flash 8 or above, you can watch this. So I'm not going to put it on now, but it looks as though the movie is up here, possibly. So I will give you this link in an announcement. So if you want to watch that, it's a really good movie, and then you can write your paper on Helvetica. And learning about the guy who invented or designed Gill Sands is pretty cool as well. I know I've read about Times New Roman. I don't think that I thought it was as interesting as I thought it was going to be. And Futura had a pretty cool story behind it too. I've definitely looked up lots of things about different fonts. So just make sure that your paper is 550 to 750 words. It should be a research paper. That means that you need to provide sources. You can't just write a paper because unless if you are the person who designed Helvetica, you would need to research this. And again, you're going to need this paper in order to do your final project. So you can't just say, you know what, I'm going to take the 0 for this and whatever, I don't want to write a paper. You won't have the content for your final project. So make sure that you are doing this. And it's worth 80 points this week. All right. So your final assignment, going back to that paper, will be to create a 2-page 11 by 17 typography-only magazine spread. The subject will be based on your own research. You will choose one of the typeface families from the approved/required typeface list to research. You will use Microsoft Word, yada, yada, yada. You will submit your paper. Those are your type styles, which it appears as though they have changed it from the last time this slide was made. So go off of the prompt. Do not go off of this list, which is clearly an old list. here is 20 famous typefaces, and haha, the faces behind them, and I will share my slides for you. Unplag went away, this mod. Apparently the school's not using it anymore, and we all got a notice like, hey, Unplag is gone. So if you are looking for a resource to check your work, one that I use is called paperreader.com. And it has a plagiarism check. You can use it now for free. You can copy and paste it in. Say what grade you're in, so college. You can put in a research paper, and you could click include plagiarism detection, and then you hit the check mark and get a report. So you can run I would suggest, this is what I will be running your papers through. I have the paid version of this, so you can only do it so many times, I think, in so many characters on the free version, but I have the paid version, so let me know. Just send me a message if you're having trouble running it through Paper Reader. Well, because if you're getting, this is a research paper, so it's not exactly that you're writing your own paper, because you're writing this for school, so that's why you need to have it checked for plagiarism. Anytime you research something and then you're writing about somebody else's work or about somebody else, you always want to make sure that you aren't plagiarizing your sources. I hope that answered your question. All right, so 20 famous typefaces and the faces behind them. We have Helvetica, which was designed by Max Meidinger. Yes, that is why you quote. Going back to the paper, it is why you quote, but your entire paper can't be quotes. Does that make sense? And there is a specific APA format to how you need to do quotes. Like if quotes are so many lines, it needs to be a block quote, which means you need to indent it on the left and indent it on the right, because then it's not your research. It's not your paper. A paper still needs to be written in your own words. All right, so Helvetica was designed by a Swiss typeface designer. He was, Max Meininger, I'm probably saying his name wrong, was famous for creating Helvetica in 1957. It was marketed as a symbol of cutting-edge Swiss technology, and Helvetica went global at once, and it's still one of the most famous fonts out there. And I actually live near a college, right around the corner actually from a college that has a graphic design program there that I actually went to, but at the time I did live where I live. And somebody made Helvetica stickers and stuck them all over the campus. But the funny thing is they all say Helvetica, and not one of the stickers is in the font Helvetica. So it's, you know, it was definitely meant to be funny, and every time I see them, I crack up laughing. It's like random Helvetica jokes. All right, then we have Frutiger and Universe, which was designed, those were designed by Adrian Frutiger, one of the most prominent typeface designers of the 20th century, who continues influencing the direction of digital typography in the 21st century. He is best known for creating the typefaces of Universe and Frutiger, which very similar. They have a similar feel to them. Then we have John Baskerville. He was an English businessman in areas including Japanese and papier-mâché, but he is best remembered as a printer and a typographer. Baskerville was responsible for significant innovations in printing, paper, and ink production. He developed a technique which produced a smoother, whiter paper which showcased his strong black type. Baskerville also pioneered a completely new style of typography, adding wide margins and leading between each line. Yeah, he's got some style and hair there. not old at all. Then we have Matthew Carter. He was a type designer, or is a type designer, who lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Carter's career in type design has witnessed the transition from physical metal type to digital type, and he's responsible for the font Georgia. Then we have a typesetting and typeface design company, also known as a type foundry, which is responsible for many developments in printing technology, in particular the monotype machine, which was the first fully mechanical typesetter, and the design and production of typefaces in the 19th and 20th century. Its most widely known product by far is the font Times New Roman. However, Monotype Imaging Inc. also came out with Rockwell and another famous font that I can't think of off of the top of my head. But that's what I mean. That's why I thought Times New Roman had a much more, interesting story. And it's like, no, it came from a foundry. I was like, oh, all right. All right, so resources to tap into for assessment 2. Check out Vimeo and YouTube. Try to find some videos. Again, I'll post that PBS link to see if you can watch that Helvetica movie. Do a Google search. Go to your local library. Your local library may also have that Helvetica movie for you to rent. You can go to Shark, use the library resources, or use Google Scholar Search, and then AIGA, which is a search for biographies. And that's my last slide. So let's go over to the assignment. And we'll set it up. I'll do the whole walkthrough with the whole setup for you. All right, let me close this out. I don't need to save that. So I need to be 5.5 by 8.5. I am going to do landscape just because. So width is 8.5 and height is 5.5, and it's just one page. Start at 1. I don't have anything specific for my margins, so I'm going to do a 0.5 margin all around, and I would suggest that you do the same. We aren't going to have a bleed on this either, and then you can just hit create. A 1/2 inch is a good, kind of a good buffer from the edges. All right, so I need full color CMYK. So what that means is if you are creating colors, what you need to do, where's my swatches? Swatches, they're not up here. Usually they're with my gradient. Window. Color, there we go, swatches. There we go. I'll just pop this bad boy out. If you are going to create colors, there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can create them right in here, right in the swatches library. You can kind of double click down here, and you'll notice it says RGB color space view. You want to add a CMYK swatch. The other way that you could do it is with Adobe Color. So Adobe Color runs through your browser. So if you go to color.adobe.com and make sure that you are signed in under the same sign-in for your Creative Suite, it will sync your colors right to InDesign for you. So let's say I have a couple of themes already in here. Let's say I want to use this color scheme. I'll just edit a copy of it. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to name it DES113. And I'm going to create a folder for a new library called DES113 and save and save. So you can kind of just make your own colors in there. It's a whole lot of fun. Go into, save it, go into InDesign, go into your CC library, and find DES113 that you just made, and here's those color themes. They won't be in your swatches, but you can right-click and add to swatches. Oh, no, right-click all. I want all of them. Add theme to swatches. There we go. All right. And I'll delete this one. But when you do that, you'll notice they are added as RGB. So that means you need to make them CMYK. And there's a reason I'm going through all of these steps, so that way I can show you how to add swatches. I can show you if they're accidentally RGB, how you can fix them. So you're going to select each of the images, and you can just kind of hit enter or right-click and go to swatch options, or you can double-click on the swatch. You want to change it, make sure it says process, and the color mode, scroll up, is CMYK. So if you have them all selected, it will do them all together. If you have just one selected, you'll have to do them one at a time. But you can select multiple ones by holding down Shift. So it's a little overview of adding some swatches. All right. Let me close this up for a sec. So how do I want to do this? Let me copy and paste the copy. I'm going to kind of break it down for you. So let's take a look at this copy and try to break it down into different sections. That's how we're going to come up with our hierarchy of what is the most important. So, things that I know that I want to stand out, and I'm not even picking fonts at this point. I'm just thinking through, what do I want to stand out? Let's read it over. I'm going to pretend that I'm doing the Bank of Lantander. So I'm going to draw just a regular old box and pretend that that's my letter form. So this would be, they're going to open up a new branch. So I'm going to take out store, and I'm going to take out location, all the way to the period after choose one. So it says, you're cordially invited to the grand opening of our new branch. Come celebrate with us and enjoy a live concert from Christina Aguilera at one of our 2 seated dinner parties, Friday, September 16th. And it should say or, but it doesn't say or. So I need to kind of be aware of that. Called this number, must be 21 or older, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I know that a couple of things need to stand out. Grand opening should probably stand out. So I'm just gonna make that bold. Christina Aguilera should probably stand out. I'm gonna make that bold. I know that these 2 dates need to be separated from each other. So I'm just going to separate them and put them on a separate line. Call this number to reserve my seats. I'm going to make that bold. That should probably stand out. And I'm just bolding things so in my mind, I know what needs to stand out. Must be 21 or older. Seating is limited. I know that that sounds like a disclaimer, so I'm going to make that smaller. So for now, I'm just going to kind of make this 8-point type. It doesn't need to stay at 8-point type, but just in my head, I can see that that should probably be smaller. Then I'm going to start to separate out some of these lines of how I think it should be separated. So I'm cordially invited to a grand opening. Come celebrate that with us should probably be separated. And enjoy a live concert from, I'm probably going to put Christina Aguilera on her own line at one of our 2 seated dinner parties. The time should probably be on its own. Call should be on its own, and then this should be on its own. So as you can see, I'm starting to just separate some things out so that way, you know, I can see what needs to stand out, what isn't, you know, what doesn't need to stand out, and kind of have an idea of what goes together here. So this should be, the whole word should be bold. All right. And I haven't even picked a font. Now let's pretend that my letter form is where am I looking for? Here we go. Source Sans Pro. So we'll say that I have the letter B, and the letter L, and maybe I put it all inside of the letter O. I'm just spitballing here. The O is a little bit fancier. Or maybe the O's in the center. I don't know. This is actually not a very well drawn letter form, so just don't judge me. So the first thing I want to do is see how I just made this into a box. I'm going to turn my letter form, once it's completed, into outlines. So how I do that is I select the text. I can either select it like with my black arrow key and go up into Type, Create Outlines. And the reason why I want to do this is I don't want to accidentally select my letter form as a text box and delete it or something else. And it's going to be more manageable for me if I work with it, you know, as outlines. I can place it like an image. And then I can start to add some color to it, kind of like how I would colorize an image. So I'm going to make this pink, and I'm going to make this blue, and this has a very Miami Vice look to it, and then I'm going to select both of them and group it. So I'm going to do edit. Oh, is it under edit? I always use quick keys. Object group, there we go. And now it's just, you know, a picture that I can place, way more manageable. When I'm scaling my letter form, which I might need to do, I need to hold down the Shift key to scale it. So that way I scale everything proportionally. If I don't, and I do this, it's gonna scale. See how it's not scaling proportionally? You wanna make sure that you are holding down that Shift key when you're scaling things. All right. So because my letter form has a sans serif font, of Source Sans Pro, and it also has a script font in there, I'm going to need to be aware when I'm picking my fonts that I already have a sans serif font on my page because that's part of my logo. So I might want to mimic that font and use Source Sans Pro, start off with Source Sans Pro as a font. Or I might want to pick a serif font maybe. But we know how I do things, so I'm gonna pick a sans serif font. Yeah. I'm gonna move this box of copy over. Oops, I accidentally made a copy of it, and just kind of keep it off to the side. And I'm going to move, you know, the copy back into my design as I add it to my design. This is how I personally like to design things. You might like to design things a little bit different, but this is the way that I tend to design things. And I know I said I wasn't going to use the copy from the assignment, but honestly, I think it'd be more difficult to try to come up with some copy for you. So I need to add my letter form to the design. So I'm going to plop that in there, maybe make it a little bit bigger, because again, you know, I'm welcoming people to my new branch. And even though I have the letter form there, I should probably add the name of the business somewhere. So I'm just gonna, right now I'm just gonna run that down here because I haven't really decided how I want to do this. Maybe I'll put it up there. I don't know. I'm gonna grab this line. I'm these two lines. You're cordially invited to come celebrate and enjoy a live concert. I'm going to grab this whole section. So I'm going to copy it, draw my text box, paste that in, and I'm going to center this. And Christina Aguilera should probably be much bolder so she stands out. So I'm going to change it to black. And I might even want to, maybe I'll check out her name in that same font that I used for my my letter form. And I don't remember which one I picked. I think it was Elena. Let's try that. I can tell by doing an O. Oh, yeah, it is Elena. All right. So, Christina Aguilera. And you'll notice what happened right here. This is running into her name. So I'm going to need to fix that. And there's a lot of space between these two lines. So again, I'm going to have to move things up, move this line down. Maybe make this a little bit bigger, because that's what is happening, is a seated dinner party. And I said a grand opening of our new bridge. Maybe I'll even put that on its own line. And just make it bold. This is a little bit too big. That is 12. This is 16, 12, 12. All right. Yeah, I'll leave it at 12. And I have the dates. Friday, September 16th. Let's draw it out of the text box. Probably center this. Maybe do something like this. You know, put a bullet or what have you in between. Then call to reserve your seat. That can probably go in its own text box as well. Probably center that. And we don't have any real body copy here, so it's okay if things are centered. You know, this is a invitation. So there's no real true, like, this is paragraphs of text. That should be bigger. Call to reserve your seats. There we go. So my phone number stands out a little. And then this is the disclaimer, so this can clearly be the smallest. Just kind of run that down at the bottom for all of you under 21s. And what you notice, I have all of my text within my margin. So that's something I want to be aware of, is like, you know, where is my text located? And if you are like me and you find that's a little distracting with the edges of the boxes, I find it distracting sometimes when I'm trying to figure out if things look okay. You can go to View, Extras, Hide Frame Edges, and it'll kind of help you to see. And if you hit Command semicolon, that also turns off your rulers and your guides, so you can kind of see what it looks like. So you don't have to go to View and change your screen mode. I like to design things that way. I'm not happy with how this is laid out. I feel like this is a little bit uneven. So maybe I'll center these two together. Close this up a little. Vertically centered this next to it. There we go. Make the name bold. And let me spread this out a little bit. So starting to have a little bit of a design feel to it. I'm not really happy with how this part is running under this G. So I'm going to take this line. I'm going to delete it for a second. And I'm going to put it in its own text box. I want to see how this looks if I kind of just place it right here. That's kind of, I don't know. There we go. It's like, where did my other line go? Maybe something like that. Visually should line up with this. Technically, I get very, very technical when I'm designing, but you have to. All right. Line it up with the bottom of this, making this a little bit bigger. And making sure I have all my copies. So I have grand opening, Christina Aguilera. Yes. All right, so I can delete that. All right. So once I am happy with the copy, all right, so this is 16, this is 16, this is 12. I'm looking over my font sizes. This is 12, but I think that this needs to move down a little bit away from grand opening, a little bit more space. And you can move up a smidge. I don't really like how that bank of lanterners right there. I might move it down here, and you'll see what, and move this up. There we go. Now this kind of starts to anchor the bottom of my page. And again, this is just my kind of like my disclaimer almost. This can get a little bit closer to this box. Try to center that in that space. Keep these together. Maybe bump them up a smidge. And those rulers don't go to anything anymore, so I'll delete those. All right, so this is starting to come together. So I kind of have a visual hierarchy going on here with my types. So what stands out? Christina Aguilera, grand opening of our new bridge, the phone number, and then Bank of Lantander. So those are, you know, my eye is moving around the page. Like it starts with, oh, Christina Aguilera, what's she doing? Oh, you know, there's a grand opening. I can call that number at Bank of Lantander. All right, so your eye moves around the page. That's what you want to happen. You want the viewer's eye to start to go in this type of a circle where they're taking in all of your information and processing it. So what I might do for color is maybe I'll put this, you know, obviously this is taking place down in Miami in the 80s. So I'm going to, you know, maybe have a yellow background with, I don't know, draw a white box here. I'm going to have to center this with white. Grab both of these. Where's a line? A line. Oh, here you are. A line used to be up here. Like, it was a couple of versions ago, but I still go up there to align things. It drives me bananas. And then object, transform, range, bring to back, send to back. There we go. And maybe I'll give this a kind of hot pink border. There we go. Snazzy. And I want Bank of Lantander to stand out a little bit more, so maybe I'll put it in a reverse pink box. John Johnson would be very proud of me. You are absolutely correct. Exactly. And all right, here's a trick. See how I drew this box over that text box? If you hold down Command, Option, and then the left bracket, the one that's next to the letter P, you can cycle through. Watch how it's circling through like all of these boxes until I get to the one that's underneath. And then I can either, use the quick key or go to Arrange, Bring to Front. It's kind of just a easier way to select things when they're behind something else. Ginger, no, but you're gonna need to submit it just because that's really the best way is for you to submit it, and then I can grade it. I kind of want to make sure everybody is on an even playing field, so that's why. So you would need to submit it. Or there you go. Yeah, you know what? Lawrence, you bring up a great idea. If you guys do want to have each other critique things, I am 100% okay with that. Showing your work to each other and be like, hey, can you let me know what you think? Everything else, like, you know what? You guys are great resources for each other. So definitely, if you want to, show your work and everything else, like, I am 100% okay with that. I think it's a great way to kind of start up some friendships and for you guys to, to really get used to the critique process and, kind of to feel like you're in more of a classroom setting. So I'm definitely okay with that. All right, I'm going to change this to maybe white. And maybe I'll change Christina Aguilera's name to this blue so she kind of stands out, and the phone number to that blue. And maybe this. Let's see, that might be too much. Sometimes you have to try things to see if they work. All right. So if I go to view preview, you can see what this will look like. So here is my, here's my postcard. Again, I definitely shouldn't see any similar designs. And if you do have a color scheme like this, I will tell you it's very Miami Vice. But, be aware that the year is 2017, so don't date yourself with your colors. Don't use just the default colors that are the default swatches that are in design. Definitely make some colors. That's when I was a kid. So yeah. So don't worry, it's not just you. So after you are done, make sure that you are saving it based on the correct naming convention, which is, it's down here in the rubric. So name your InDesign file. Remember, put it in a folder for week 2. Keep your files together. This is the assignment. And we are submitting a PDF, it looks like. Yes, a PDF. So after you save your InDesign file, do File, Export. Export that PDF for print. Hit Save. Close that out.
And when you put things in folders, you always know where they are. And double check your PDF before you upload it. You know, make sure things aren't running off the side, things didn't fall off by accident, that you aren't missing anything. And then when you are completely satisfied, you can upload to submit your assignment. And submit it. And make sure that you're reading over the rubric before you submit. You know, lettermark is included. Copy is not altered. Contrasting fonts and styles are used that are appropriate for the occasion. Hierarchy and emphasis is created using line breaks. Contrasting fonts. Composition is well balanced. Submitted on time. And the size is a 5.5 by 8.5 PDF. And I'll fix that so it's actually, the description, you'll have to click to see what that one was. So, I was just double checking the chat. Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys are good. All right, so those are our assignments and our assessments for this week. And again, please get into the discussion as soon as possible, because the quicker you get your letter forms in there to get some feedback, the quicker you will be able to do those fixes and add them to your assignment for this week. Also, don't wait till the last minute to write that research paper. And again, if you're you know, if you're kind of at a loss for a topic, it looks as though PBS has the Helvetica film through Independent Lens. I feel like I should have Flash loaded on this in Chrome, but let me try Firefox while I have you guys. I would hate to like send you here and then it ends up that it's not even like the full movie. Yes, this is my local station. Oh, it is. It does look like it is. It's broken up into sections, which is good. I mean, it's not the full film, but there's 3 different clips that are about 2 minutes each, so it's about 6 minutes of it. And if you're looking for the full film, there is a good chance that your library might have it. Where can we go to collaborate, share, or work for critiques? Oh, that's a good question. If you are in the course, there is, I gotta find it. Hold, please, one moment. I think you can go, oh, this doesn't allow you to upload. Oh, there used to be a collaboration. The newer courses, I believe, have a spot where you can collaborate. You could probably use the chat feature, and if you upload to your Behance, which you should all have a Behance going, you can provide a link and just kind of share that link in the chat and ask people if they can give you, you know, an idea. So I have, like, let me go to my Behance. I think this is my Behance. Nope, hold on. I don't remember what my URL is off the top of my head. Here we go. So if you upload to your Behance, like let's say that I wanted somebody to critique my photoshopping this arm out of this picture or something. What I could do is I can copy, I believe, my link. I would probably want to make sure that
I'm viewing my profile. Like I'm not just like logged in as my drafts. Yeah, you can even like, email. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. But if you didn't want to give somebody like your Facebook or your email or something like that, you can just kind of upload to your Behance and, put the link in the chat and just put in like, hey, does somebody mind taking a look and letting me know what you think of this? Like I'll start it. It'll be under the test person. Let me know what you think of my work, please. And we'll see how it works. It'll show up under test student. It won't show up under me. And then you can turn on new message alerts so that way if somebody, posts a message, that would, it'll show up. So that's one way you can do it. If you guys want to kind of get together, you can kind of utilize that chat. I've never seen anybody use the chat in the course before, but we might as well use it. That's what it's there for. And if you guys have any questions this week, please make sure that you are sending me an email. If you are, I'm going to send out another announcement, but there was an announcement regarding the hurricane, just letting people know that if you can put Canvas on your smartphone so you don't miss those daily checkpoints. And I'll post another announcement for people to see if they, are impacted by the hurricane. It's kind of hard because there's so many people who, might not have power. And I'm sure, if you're trying to conserve your cell phone battery, you're not really logging into Canvas, but you might want to try to send an email. I'm definitely going to try to work with everybody who was impacted. Just let me know. And if your work is late and I took off points, just let me know that, like, hey, I was impacted by the hurricane. I'm just able to log in now, and I will definitely, you just need to communicate with me, basically. So you're funny. So yeah, so that is, so that's that. So that is our wrap for this week. You guys are killing me in the chat right now. And come to our live sessions. We're fun here. So if anybody has any questions, just get in touch with me this week. And if you have any concerns or anything, you can always come to the multi-session tomorrow as well. And again, try to get that work in sooner rather than later this week. Don't wait till the last minute. We've got, 2 pretty big projects. I think that the discussion's kind of a pretty big project this week. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow or at our next live session next week. All right, have a great night, you guys.